Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight is Monday, November 15th, 2010. This evening, City Council is meeting in regular session. It's on or about 7:30 p.m. We do have a quorum. All members of council are present. We have the minutes of the regular session of council held on November 1st, 2010. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been accepted. Under communications, Member Sands.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask that we approve the auditor's report for the month of October. I think you've all received copies of it.
Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The reports have been accepted. Are there any other communications? I have none. Any other member of council wishes to share? Reports and communications from other elected officials. Mayor Weil.
Well, a couple things. We are going to have a commissioning event of the solar panels at the community center. That will be this Thursday, November 18th at 11 o'clock. You can always come and partake or whatever, or watch them do whatever they do, which is just sit there and absorb sunlight, I guess.
So if it's a sunny day.
If it's a sunny day. I'd like to put kudos out to Sigma Alpha Epsilon. They were doing some graffiti cleaning up in the this past Saturday on the uptown area. I think that was very nice of them to do that, and I want to thank them for that. I got an email from Ron Brooks, Officer Brooks, that he worked with them. And this is the idea of trying to get rid of the graffiti. I thought it was a good community service. And I did receive a resolution from the Student Senate about increased lighting at Jefferson Hill. I met with representatives of the Student Senate, and there's discussion about putting an extra light in. We might try getting that in by December. At least that's what I'm hearing from the staff of Public Works. And that's all I really have.
Very good.
Could I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Are we using some of the remaining in our contract, or are we going to start with new lights? We have some street lights that are covered by our general contract, as you
The
well know.
unmetered ones.
Yeah, and then the metered ones. Which one are we going to use?
Probably this would be an unmetered one, I suspect, since it'll probably just come off the other pole. There's actually a light there about a third of the way down. We're going to try putting another one a third of the way up.
Yeah.
I'll ask if you want me to find out.
I think under the circumstances, it's desirable to have one there, but we must have some left since we've taken so many off the contract.
Well, again, the way I understand this, it's an aggregate bill.
A maximum, right?
What?
A maximum number
I don't
we
even
can have?
know if there's a number attached to it. I'll have to ask on that.
There used to be a number attached to it a
And I know
decade
there used to be
ago.
a list.
Right, and if you exceeded that, you had to go to a new,
Really?
yeah.
Okay,
so,
I didn't know that. I'll check with Andy.
Right. It comes out of his budget if it,
Well, I think Lands and Buildings takes care of the light.
it comes out of the people's pocket anyway.
Yes, it does.
Other comments or questions for the mayor? City Auditor Kathy Hecht.
Thank you, President Bice. The only thing I guess I would like to say is that Ray and I have been working with the Finance Committee and the Mayor and Service Safety Director on budget issues and continuing to try to get an estimate for revenue for next year so the Mayor can try to fit a budget into what we think is going to come in. And we'll probably talk more about that next week or the next couple weeks. But anyway, just to let you know that.
The budget season is upon us.
Yes, it is.
Anything else? Questions
Yeah.
for the auditor?
Well, one more thing. We will have a budget ready for the committee meeting next Monday. So at least something that we can put together and run with. Mostly just bringing the costs with the revenue together.
We'll have numbers and columns is what they're
Yeah.
City Treasurer Mary Ann McClure.
I've already given you all a copy of the July, August, and September bank reconciliations, and on the back page of that is the third quarter interest income report that shows the quarterly totals. It shows our year-to-date accumulated at 99,394.82, just under 100,000. So we're probably going to come in a little bit under the target again this year. It's difficult to, like I said we've
Tell
heard
you, it's really
that.
higher than I would have expected it to be. I have been watching 2- and 10-year numbers, and even with what the Fed's doing, they're going up.
Well, hopefully that'll happen.
It'll translate eventually to a little bit more income
I think
here.
it's going to take a little bit.
Yeah. But obviously, we saw that the county's having the same problems that we are in that regard.
No surprise.
Yeah.
So if there's any questions, I'll have to answer them now or later.
Questions for the treasurer? Yes. Member Butler.
Thank you. I actually had a question for the mayor, if I may.
Okay.
My brain is on delayed mode here.
Well, maybe I missed.
It cooled down on the walk up here, I guess. But I was curious about it, whether or not we've heard any costs for the price tag on Halloween yet.
I just received this morning the numbers from the street department. They told about 19,000. I did a quick calculation this morning. We're talking about 64,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have a spreadsheet that I've just been pasting all the different ones in there and just summing them at the bottom, so that gives you an idea what it's costing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other reports on the all-call that all of us got?
And where's our
And how many people actually showed up at Bob Evans?
I don't know how many people showed up. Did you see the news release on that? There was a news release they sent out. This is basically, I guess it was a mislabeling of a button at the 911 area, and a new employee, so they didn't know, because they had basically an all-call for everybody in the county, and then they had a Athens Fire Department all-call, and they just saw the first all-call and hit it. I think the news release, which was put out, I guess it was Friday sometime, said they tried dialing about 23,000 numbers. They made an immediate connection about 12. I got one at 12:10.
As did I.
Yeah, and again, I thought it was something different, but I didn't think I was really required to hold a fire hose, so I didn't go. It is encouraging that we have a lot of people turning out and hoping to help. I think that's a good thing in one sense. Hopefully we don't do that too often, so it's like crying wolf after a while.
I love the messenger's comment, a missed opportunity to sell sausage gravy.
Yeah, sure. But again, it was somebody saw smoke and basically reported, and it's just a question of 911 having to deal with it. I imagine they're working out their protocols a little bit better now. Okay, and it costs them money to do that too. And I think that was part of the staff discussion at the staff meeting this morning. What was he saying? Not about 6,000, something like that.
Yeah.
6,000 minutes used up. I guess they have a limited amount of minutes they can hit the button, and they used up a bunch of those just by doing all the calls. So therefore, sending another one out saying don't come at 1 o'clock was probably not what everybody wanted, right?
No.
Okay.
Would have woken us all up again.
Yeah.
But again, these things, can happen. Part of the technology we have,
Yeah.
for good or ill.
Any other comments for the mayor? City Law Director Patrick Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have much other than just to briefly update. We're still, next Monday, we're set for finishing up the Palmer Place trial, dealing with our water and sewer tap fees. And so we've got probably 90% of that behind us, but we do have one more witness to call, and so that'll be a week from today. And, of course, on the other case that had been of some interest, the three-wide entertainment case, we made our oral argument in front of the 4th District Court of Appeals, and so we are awaiting a ruling from them on that at this point.
Okay. Questions for the Law Director? Then on to ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 5910 is an ordinance amending the Athens City Code Title 29, Housing Regulations to require carbon monoxide detectors in residential rental dwellings and rooming houses. Ordinance 10710 is an ordinance authorizing construction of Phase 1 of the Northwest Bike Path extension from the West State Park and across the Hocking River, Project 255. Ordinance 10810 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 08010 authorizing design engineering of the Oxbow Bridge, Project 247. Ordinance 10910 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to suspend temporarily the fee for parking at metered spaces in the municipal parking garage and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 11010 is an ordinance amending the Title 15 Taxes, Chapter 15.01.06A, Collection at Source. Member Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to consider ordinance 11010 under suspension of the rules. The reason for the suspension is that the city needs to disseminate information to companies so that they can be ready to comply with this ordinance on January 1st.
Other comments? All those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 11010?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules have been suspended.
I move to adopt ordinance 11010.
Second.
This is an ordinance that will allow companies to pay their city withholding online, and it is scheduled to begin January 1st for companies that are set up to do this. Companies that are not set up to do this will have more time to get ready, or exceptions could be made for them if they're really small companies. This will save the city a lot of paperwork and a lot of money, and I think it's a really good thing.
Applying technology to taxes.
Yes.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance has been adopted. I have been alerted by the clerk that the previous ordinance, 10910, will require suspension if we want it to take effect as the ordinance states, which is the day after Thanksgiving. So if we could revisit 10910?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we consider this ordinance 10910 under suspension.
Second.
And this is for the purpose, as explained by the council president, of passing this in time so that we can have the free parking take place starting
As the
December.
ordinance states. Yeah. Is there further discussion on suspension of the rules for ordinance 10910? Mayor Weil.
The only point why you wouldn't have this if you're planning to have a special session, the next committee meeting or so, but no,
Oh, let's get it done now.
I figure as much.
Since we have a motion and a second, let's say wish to withdraw. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules are suspended.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of 10910.
Second.
Okay, and this is for free parking at the municipal parking garage from the December 1 through, or the dates mentioned, it will be after Thanksgiving holiday through the end of the year.
Yes. Further discussion? Oh, yes, Member Cosney.
The purpose, of course, is to try to draw people into our uptown area over the holidays, and very much in support of our businesses in the uptown area.
And we've done it a number of years, but now in the parking building. Mayor Weil.
As you said, we've switched from the on-the-street stuff to the parking garage, which is seems to be, I think the Uptown Business Association likes that better from what I've heard.
I agree. I think there is a little bit of confusion at first, but from what I hear, it seems to be working better.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 10910 has been adopted. Ordinance 11210 is an ordinance amending ordinance 04009, authorizing an additional expenditure for the RECRA closure project number 62 and declaring an emergency. Member Bain.
Mr. President, this time I'd like to consider 11210 under suspension of the rules.
Second.
The suspension of the rules will, I hope, expedite the RCRA closure project number 62. It's from the way back time, and we may not have a special session in November. This will take care of getting the materials in place for that.
Okay. Further discussion on suspension? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules have been suspended.
Mr. President, I move adoption of 11210. 11210 will put additional money in the line to complete the paperwork required for a previous situation that we were involved in about 1989, I believe it was. And the paperwork is solved, the wells were clean, and let's get it off our agenda.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 11210 has been adopted. Ordinance 11310 is an ordinance authorizing design engineering and energy efficiency improvements at the wastewater treatment plant, Project 248, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, at this time, I'd like to move to consider 11310 under suspension of the rules.
Second.
The reason for the suspension is that we have an energy efficiency and improvement grant that we must start working on, and as you know, it's the second meeting in November, so time is essential at this point.
Further discussion on suspension. All those in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules have been suspended.
Mr. President, I move adoption of 11310.
Second.
11310 is the down payment on, first of all, the energy design engineering and energy efficiency improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. Last week, I passed out a sheet, lest anyone think that we haven't been doing things at the plant. The one thing you noticed is that we have been investing continuously in this, and perhaps the cost will not be as high. I say that with a certain amount of hope, as will happen as we continue to meet the requirements of the Clean Water Act. We did meet it first time 1988, and of course 30 years have passed, or almost that much, and at least 20 have it almost paid for, so it's time to do some more work on them and to continue to improve our wastewater treatment plant.
Further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 11310 has been adopted. On to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 11410 is an ordinance declaring a forfeiture vehicle no longer needed for a municipal purpose. Member Knightley.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is for purposes of putting up for auction a vehicle that is in the city's possession because it's a forfeited vehicle. And so we're now going to, it's a 1995 Ford Ranger, and we'll be disposing of it through auction once this ordinance is passed.
Other comments? Ordinance 11510 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 5810, declaring certain buses no longer needed for a municipal purpose. Again, Member Knightley.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are the old Gillig buses that we mentioned in the Transportation Committee meeting last week, and we are going to be disposing of them by donation to other governmental agencies or by eBay auction or sealed bids or salvage value for them.
Other comments?
Mr. President?
I'm sorry. Yes, City Auditor.
I was just going to let council know, in case they were wondering about these two ordinances. I didn't realize this until recently, but the only way we can dispose of forfeited vehicles is through auction, as opposed to the buses and things that we have where we can, donate them, scrap them, or auction them off. But so that's one reason. That's the only way we can get rid of those vehicles.
Okay. Thanks for the information. Ordinance 11610 is an ordinance authorizing an interfund transfer and amending the 2010 appropriation ordinance. Member Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Section 1 amends the 2010 appropriation ordinance by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the sum of $300,000 to General Fund 101, Transaction Class 600, for transfer and increasing the total appropriation by said amount. Section 2, the auditor is authorized to make the following interfund transfer from General Fund 101 to Transportation Assistance Fund, $100,000. From General Fund 101, Capital Improvements Fund, $200,000. Section 3 further amends the 2010 appropriation ordinance by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the sum of $57,000 to Transportation Assistance Fund 215, Transaction Class 300 for the transit system, and $200,000 to Capital Improvements Fund 580.208.553259, designated for the Fire Department ladder truck, and increasing the total appropriations by said amounts.
Questions? Very good. On to ordinance 11710, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application and enter into a grant agreement with the Ohio Department of Public Safety, Office of Criminal Justice Services, and declaring an emergency. Again, Member Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to consider ordinance 11710 under suspension of the rules.
Second.
And the reason for the suspension is that there is an grant application deadline of November 30th.
Motion and second to consider 117 under suspension of the rules. Further discussion. All in favor? Aye. The rules are suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 11710.
Second.
This is a grant that just recently became available, and we can apply for up to $30,000. This grant is for the purpose of purchasing police enforcement vehicles. So if we receive this grant, it would help us buy a police cruiser for next year. There's no match.
Very good. Other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Apply for your grant. On to announcements and other business. Any committee meetings for next time anyone would like to move for? Planning and Development?
Planning and Development will, as the mayor indicated, we will be talking about proposals for the budget for 2011. It'll be the first time that we all will have a chance to look at it. We'll try to get it out to you a little bit early so you can have some questions or comments.
Very good. Any other announcements? Yes.
Environment Committee as well, to further discuss the green building ordinance that I briefly introduced last time.
Very good. Others? Okay. Opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that we did not cover on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak before council tonight? No? Seeing none, and having one more item on our agenda, that is an executive session that council will be going into to discuss collective bargaining. I need a motion saying who we wish to have there.
Paul is going to show up, and I hope Beverly too, so we'll find out.
Okay.
So include that.
I think Pat should be there, the mayor, and Kathy Heck, the auditor, and all council members. Personnel. They show up.
Okay, and we need a roll call motion to move in.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, let's see, there are a few people in the audience that may wish to speak to their council member. That clock over there says 7:54. Let's try to, well, we're going to use that one over there. I like it better. And that one's faster. And let's say 8 o'clock, unless you really need to ask some more questions. And then we'll talk about it. Okay. Thank you.